morning, everyone. Let's get real for a moment. Life doesn't always make sense. 1 minute, everything feels like it's falling into place, and the next, it feels like the rug's been ripped out from under you. You're left questioning, doubting, and wondering if there's any purpose to the chaos. But here's the thing, trusting God isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing that even when you don't see the full picture, He does. Trusting Him doesn't mean the path will be easy. It means believing there's a reason for the struggle, even when it's hard to understand. Think about this. When you're driving at night, your headlights don't show you the entire road ahead. They only illuminate a few feet at a time. But you keep going, don't you? You don't stop the car just because you can't see your final destination. Trusting God is like that. He gives you just enough light to take the next step, and sometimes that's all you need. Now, I know some of you might be sitting there thinking, but I've prayed. I've waited. And nothing's changed. Listen to me, waiting is not wasted time. It's preparation. Sometimes God doesn't remove the storm because He's teaching you how to navigate it. He's building your strength, your resilience, your faith. Let me tell you something powerful. The most meaningful breakthroughs often come from the most difficult breakdowns. When life doesn't make sense, it's an invitation to lean in, not to pull away. It's a moment to say, God, I don't understand, but I trust you. I don't see the way, but I believe you're making one. Remember this, faith doesn't eliminate fear, it silences it. Faith doesn't mean the absence of pain, it means the presence of purpose in the pain. You see, God doesn't promise us a life free from challenges. What He promises is to walk with us through them. Look back on your life. Think about a time when you thought, I'll never make it through this. But here you are, stronger, wiser, better equipped. That wasn't an accident. That was God working behind the scenes, even when you couldn't see it. So today I challenge you, let go of the need to control everything. Surrender the why and focus on the what now. Ask yourself, what is God teaching me in this moment? How can I grow through this season? Trust isn't passive, it's active. It's choosing to believe in the middle of uncertainty. It's saying, I may not see the way forward, but I'm taking the next step in faith. And finally, never forget this, your story isn't over. If it doesn't make sense right now, it's because the author isn't finished writing. The best chapters are still ahead. So trust God, even when life doesn't make sense. Because when you do, you'll discover a strength you never knew you had, a peace that surpasses understanding, and a purpose greater than you ever imagined. Now go out there and live boldly, trust fiercely, and walk in faith, knowing you're never alone. Trusting God means believing in His plan even when you don't understand it. Life is unpredictable. It twists and turns, throwing challenges at us that we never saw coming. One moment everything seems to be going our way, and the next we're faced with obstacles that shake us to our core. It's in these moments when confusion sets in, when doubt creeps into our minds, that trust becomes the ultimate test of faith. Trusting God doesn't mean we have all the answers. It means we are willing to move forward even when we can't see the entire path. There's something deeply unsettling about uncertainty. As human beings, we crave control. We want to know what's coming next, to have a plan, to anticipate and prepare. But faith operates in a completely different realm. Faith is not about seeing, it's about believing. It's about understanding that even when life looks like a mess, even when we are surrounded by uncertainty, there is a greater plan unfolding behind the scenes. When we trust God, we let go of the need to have everything figured out. We release the pressure of trying to control outcomes that are far beyond our ability to manage. Trusting God doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means acknowledging that there is a higher reality at play. It's the realization that no matter how chaotic things seem, no matter how painful or confusing, there is divine order beneath it all. But let's be honest, trusting God is not easy. It's not natural to surrender control. We have all experienced moments where we have prayed for something, hoped for something, and yet nothing changed. Or worse, things seem to go in the opposite direction. In those times, it's tempting to question everything. It's easy to ask, why is this happening? Where is God in all of this? This is where real faith is tested. It's one thing to trust when things are going well, when doors are opening, when opportunities are flowing. But what about when doors slam shut? What about when the path ahead is completely dark and every step forward feels like a struggle? That's when trust matters most. Because faith isn't just about believing when it's easy, it's about holding on when it's hard. Think about a seed buried underground. When it's in the soil, it's completely covered in darkness. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, that seed is breaking open, growing roots, preparing to push through the soil and reach the sunlight. If you were to judge the process too soon, you might assume the seed had been forgotten, that it had been left in the dark for no reason. But the truth is, it's in that hidden place where the most important growth happens. Life works the same way. Sometimes we feel buried by circumstances. We feel forgotten, left behind, as if everything is working against us. But what if instead of being buried, we are being planted? What if the very things that feel like setbacks are actually setups for something greater? Trusting God means holding on even when you can't see the growth. It means knowing that just because you don't see results right now doesn't mean nothing is happening. One of the biggest struggles with trust is the fear of disappointment. We hesitate to fully surrender because we don't want to be let down. But true trust is not about guaranteeing a specific outcome. It's about believing in the goodness of God no matter what. It's about knowing that His plan is better than anything we could come up with on our own. We've all had moments in life where we thought we knew best. We planned, we strategized, we did everything we could to make things happen the way we wanted them to, and yet somehow things didn't go as expected. But then, later down the road, we look back and realize that what we thought was a disappointment was actually protection. What we thought was rejection was actually redirection. The job we didn't get, the relationship that didn't work out, the opportunity that slipped away. Sometimes those moments that hurt the most are actually the ones that saved us. There's a reason we're not given a full roadmap of our lives. If we knew everything that was coming, we wouldn't need faith. If we saw the full picture in advance, we might try to take shortcuts, avoid challenges, or rush the process. But growth doesn't happen in comfort. Strength isn't built in ease. Every difficulty, every unanswered question, every painful moment is shaping us in ways we can't yet see. One of the most powerful things about trust is that it shifts our focus. Instead of being consumed by worry, we start to develop peace. Instead of constantly trying to force outcomes, we begin to embrace the process. When we trust, we stop striving and we start surrendering. And surrender isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that our limited perspective will never compare to God's infinite wisdom. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain looking up. From where you stand, the path might look impossible. It might seem steep, overwhelming, and uncertain. But if you were to rise above it, if you could see the entire landscape from a higher perspective, you would see the path winding through, leading exactly where it needs to go. That's what trusting God is like. From where we stand, life can look confusing, even impossible at times. But from His perspective, everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust isn't passive. It's not just sitting back and doing nothing. It's an active choice to believe, to move forward, to keep showing up even when you don't have all the answers. It's a mindset shift from fear to faith, from anxiety to assurance. It's deciding that even when you don't understand the why, you will still move forward with the what now. Trusting God doesn't mean you won't face difficulties. It doesn't mean you won't have questions, doubts, or struggles. What it does mean is that you are never walking through them alone. It means that even in the waiting, even in the struggle, even in the moments that make no sense at all, there is a divine purpose at work. Waiting is not wasted time, it's preparation for what's coming. We live in a world that thrives on speed. Everything is designed for instant results. Instant food, instant entertainment, instant gratification. We've been conditioned to believe that if something isn't happening immediately, it's a problem. But life doesn't operate on our timeline. There are seasons where things move fast. And then there are seasons of waiting. And it's in those seasons, the ones that feel slow, stagnant, or uncertain, where the real growth happens. Waiting is uncomfortable because it forces us to confront our lack of control. When we're waiting, we're faced with questions that don't have immediate answers. We wonder if we're on the right path, if things will ever change, if what we're hoping for will actually come to pass. And in that uncertainty, frustration creeps in. The temptation is to push, to force, to make things happen on our own. But when we rush the process, we often miss the very lessons that were meant to prepare us for what's ahead. Think about a caterpillar inside a cocoon. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But inside, transformation is taking place. If you were to cut open the cocoon too soon, thinking you were helping, you would actually stop the process and prevent the butterfly from developing the strength it needs to fly. The struggle inside the cocoon is necessary. The waiting period is where the wings are formed. The same principle applies to our lives. What feels like delay is often development. What seems like inactivity is actually preparation. We tend to view waiting as wasted time because we equate progress with action. If we're not moving, if things aren't visibly changing, we assume we're stuck. But some of the most important breakthroughs happen beneath the surface. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean nothing is happening. Sometimes the most powerful growth is the kind you don't notice until one day everything shifts. And you realize you've been preparing for this moment all along. Patience isn't just about enduring the wait, it's about embracing it. It's about using the waiting season to refine yourself, to build character, to strengthen your mindset. If you're in a waiting season, ask yourself, how am I growing during this time? What skills, habits, or lessons am I developing that will prepare me for what's next? Because make no mistake, the waiting isn't pointless, it has a purpose. Think about farmers. When they plant seeds, they don't expect an overnight harvest. They understand that growth takes time. They trust that beneath the soil, even though they can't see it, something is happening. They water the soil, nurture it, and have faith in the process. They don't dig up the seeds every day to check if they're growing. They wait, they trust, and when the time is right, the harvest comes. In life, we often want the harvest without the waiting. We want results without the process. But everything worthwhile takes time. Mastery isn't built overnight. Strength isn't developed in an instant. Relationships, careers, personal growth, all of it requires seasons of preparation. And those seasons often come disguised as waiting. One of the hardest things about waiting is the fear that nothing will change. That feeling of being stuck, of being left behind while everyone else seems to be moving forward can be discouraging. But comparison is a distraction. Just because someone else's journey looks different doesn't mean yours isn't on schedule. Timing is everything. A delay isn't a denial. It's often divine alignment. There's a reason why some doors don't open right away. Sometimes it's because we're not ready. Other times it's because the opportunity itself isn't ready. Imagine receiving everything you've ever wanted before you were prepared to handle it. Would you be able to sustain it? Would you have the maturity, the wisdom, the discipline? Many times what feels like a delay is actually protection. It's ensuring that when the opportunity comes, we won't just experience it, we'll be equipped to maximize it. Waiting reveals who we truly are. It tests our patience, our faith, our ability to stay committed when things aren't happening on our timeline. It's easy to be hopeful when everything has fallen into place, but what about when nothing seems to be changing? Can you still trust? Can you still believe in the vision even when you don't see results? That's the real test. Some of the greatest success stories are built in the waiting. Many of the most accomplished people in the world went through long seasons where it looked like nothing was happening. They faced rejection, failure, and countless obstacles. But what separated them from the rest was their ability to endure the process. They didn't give up just because results weren't immediate. They stayed committed, refining their skills, learning from setbacks, growing through the struggle. And when their moment finally came, they were ready. Think about an athlete training for competition. The hours in the gym, the early mornings, the late nights, the discipline, most of that work happens in the unseen. The victories you witness in the spotlight are a result of years of preparation behind the scenes. The same is true in life. The waiting season is the training ground. It's where resilience is built, where persistence is tested, where strength is developed. It's where you become the person who is capable of handling the success, the blessing, the opportunity that's coming. Patience is a form of trust. It's saying, I believe that what's meant for me will come in the right time. It's refusing to settle for something just because you're tired of waiting. It's understanding that temporary discomfort is far better than long-term regret. Have you ever looked back on a time in your life where you were in a rush to make something happen, only to later realize that waiting would have been the better choice? We often don't see the wisdom of the waiting season until we're on the other side of it. That's why hindsight is so powerful. It reveals how everything was coming together even when we didn't see it at the time. Think about the process of making a diamond. It starts as a piece of coal buried deep beneath the earth. It undergoes intense pressure and extreme heat over years and years before it transforms into something valuable. If you were to pull it out of the ground too soon, it wouldn't have the strength, the brilliance, the resilience of a true diamond. The waiting, the pressure, the process, that's what creates the value. Many times we want to rush the process because we're afraid we'll miss out. But what's meant for you won't pass you by. What's aligned for you will come when you are ready. The key is to not give up in the middle. To not lose faith just because you don't see immediate results. To not walk away from something great just because the process is taking longer than you expected. Waiting isn't wasted time. It's preparation. It's the refining, the strengthening, the building of something that will last. It's trusting that every delay has a reason, every pause has a purpose, and that when the time is right, everything will fall into place. Faith doesn't eliminate fear, but it silences it. Fear is a natural part of life. It's wired into our biology, designed to keep us safe, to warn us of danger, to make us think before we act. But too often, fear doesn't just warn us, it controls us. It keeps us stuck, paralyzed by the unknown, afraid to take risks, afraid to move forward. The difference between those who live boldly and those who stay trapped isn't the absence of fear. It's their ability to push forward despite it. That's where faith comes in. Faith and fear are opposites, but they often exist side by side. You don't wake up one day and suddenly never feel afraid again. You don't develop faith to the point where fear vanishes completely. Instead, you learn to override it. You learn that fear may whisper, it may try to hold you back, but it doesn't have the final say. Faith is what silences fear, what keeps it from making your decisions, what allows you to step forward even when your heart is pounding and your mind is filled with doubt. Fear loves the unknown. It thrives in uncertainty. The moment you step into something new, a new challenge, a new opportunity, a new level of growth, fear will show up. It will try to convince you that you're not ready, that you're not capable, that you should turn back before you get hurt. But faith speaks a different language. Faith says, I may not know the outcome, but I know I'm not alone. Faith says, I may not feel ready, but I trust that I have everything I need to take the next step. The mistake most people make is waiting for fear to disappear before they take action. They tell themselves, once I feel confident, once I have certainty, once I know exactly how this will turn out, then I'll move forward. But that day never comes because confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward despite it. Faith isn't about waiting until you feel brave. It's about acting in the face of fear and allowing courage to grow through experience. Fear feeds on hesitation. The longer you wait, the louder it becomes. The more you entertain thoughts of doubt, the stronger they grow. But the moment you step forward, the moment you take action, faith takes over. Fear loses its grip when you refuse to give it power. When you stop waiting for the perfect conditions, when you stop making excuses, when you stop letting fear dictate your decisions, you start to realize that most of the things you were afraid of were never as big as they seemed. Think about a child learning to swim. At first, they cling to the edge of the pool, afraid to let go. They imagine sinking, struggling, failing. But the moment they push off, the moment they realize they can float, something shifts. The fear doesn't disappear immediately, but with each attempt, it gets quieter. Faith works the same way. The more you step out, the more you trust, the less power fear has over you. Fear thrives in the worst case scenario. It convinces you to play small, to stay where it's safe, to avoid risk. But faith focuses on possibility. Faith says, what if this works out? What if this leads to something better than I imagined? What if this challenge is exactly what I need to grow? Shifting from fear to faith isn't about ignoring risk. It's about choosing to believe that whatever happens, you will be okay. That even if things don't go as planned, even if you stumble, even if you face obstacles, you will have the strength to get back up. There's a common saying, do it afraid. Because the truth is, you will never feel 100% ready. You will never have absolute certainty. If you wait for the fear to disappear, you'll never take the leap. The people who achieve great things, the ones who create impact, who live boldly, who chase their dreams, they feel fear just like everyone else. The difference is, they don't let it stop them. They acknowledge it, they feel it, but they move forward anyway. Faith silences fear because it shifts your focus. Instead of focusing on everything that could go wrong, faith helps you see what could go right. Instead of dwelling on the obstacles, faith reminds you of your strength. Fear will always try to show you your limits. It will remind you of your past failures, of the reasons why you should quit, of all the things that could go wrong. But faith reminds you that you are capable, that your past doesn't define you, that you have overcome challenges before and you can overcome them again. Fear tells you to avoid failure at all costs. Faith reminds you that failure is part of growth. Every person who has ever succeeded has failed along the way. The difference is they didn't let failure stop them. They learned from it. They adjusted. They kept going. When you walk in faith, you understand that setbacks are not the end. They are lessons, stepping stones, part of the process. One of the greatest lies fear tells you is that you are alone, that no one understands, that no one else feels this way, that you have to figure everything out on your own. But faith reminds you that you are never alone, that there is a bigger plan at work, that you are supported, that there is strength beyond what you can see. Fear will always try to control the narrative. It will tell you that you don't have what it takes, that you're not good enough, that the risk isn't worth it. But faith writes a different story. It says you are equipped, you are prepared, you are capable, that the dream in your heart is there for a reason, that you wouldn't have the vision if you weren't meant to pursue it. Fear makes you question yourself. Faith makes you believe in yourself. Fear keeps you stuck in the past. Faith pushes you toward the future. Fear magnifies your weaknesses. Faith strengthens your confidence. The mind is powerful. Whatever you focus on grows. If you feed fear, it will dominate your thoughts, your decisions, your actions. But if you feed faith, if you choose to focus on what is possible, on the strength within you, on the belief that you are capable, then fear loses its grip. It's not about never feeling afraid. It's about choosing not to let fear make your decisions. It's about waking up every day and deciding that faith will have the final say. That no matter what challenges come, no matter what uncertainty lies ahead, you will move forward, you will trust, and you will silence fear with action. Pain has a purpose. It's not there to break you, but to build you. Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in life. Most people try to avoid it, run from it, numb it, or resist it. We live in a world that tells us pain is a problem, that discomfort is something to be eliminated, that struggle means something is wrong. But what if pain isn't the enemy? What if the very thing you're trying to avoid is the thing that will transform you into the person you're meant to become? Every breakthrough in life comes with pain. Every great achievement, every moment of growth, every level of transformation is preceded by a period of struggle. Because nothing strong is built without resistance. If you look at nature, at anything that grows, it goes through pressure, heat, stretching, breaking before it reaches its full potential. A seed has to break before it can sprout. A muscle has to tear before it can grow. Gold has to go through fire before it is purified. Pain is not a punishment. It's a process. But the way you respond to pain determines whether it builds you or breaks you. Some people go through hardship and come out stronger, wiser, more resilient. Others go through the same struggle and let it destroy them, define them, or hold them back. The difference is not in the pain itself, but in the mindset of the person experiencing it. You can either let pain be the weight that keeps you down or the force that propels you forward. Pain forces growth. It pushes you out of your comfort zone, out of your routines, out of the mindset that keeps you playing small. Most people don't change when things are easy. They don't seek growth when they're comfortable. It's when life shakes you, when things don't go as planned, when you're faced with difficulty, that you have the opportunity to grow in ways you never imagined. Some of the most successful people in the world didn't achieve greatness in spite of their pain, but because of it. They took their struggles, their setbacks, their heartbreaks, and used them as fuel. Instead of letting pain make them bitter, they let it make them better. Instead of allowing failure to define them, they used it as a lesson. They understood that pain is part of the process, that struggle is a sign of growth, that challenges are opportunities in disguise. Pain also reveals who you truly are. It strips away the distractions, the pretenses, the superficial things you thought mattered. It forces you to dig deep, to tap into strength you didn't know you had, to become someone you never imagined you could be. It exposes weaknesses, but it also highlights resilience. It breaks illusions, but it also builds character. When you go through pain, you have two choices: to become a victim of it or a student of it. A victim asks, why is this happening to me? A student asks, what can I learn from this? A victim sees pain as the end of the road. A student sees it as the beginning of something greater. A victim allows pain to limit them. A student uses it to expand them. Some of the most powerful lessons in life come through pain. It teaches you who your real friends are. It shows you what truly matters. It forces you to reassess your priorities, to let go of things that no longer serve you, to step into a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more capable. It teaches patience, humility, perseverance. It shapes you in ways that comfort never could. Think about the hardest moments in your life, the times when you thought you wouldn't make it, when everything felt like it was falling apart, when the struggle seemed unbearable. And yet here you are, you survived, you grew, you became wiser, stronger, more resilient. The very things you thought would break you actually built you. The moments you wanted to escape ended up shaping you into the person you are today. There is no strength without struggle, no growth without resistance, no wisdom without experience. The pain you're experiencing is not meaningless, it's not random. It's refining you, preparing you, stretching you in ways that will serve you in the future. You may not see it now, but one day you'll look back and realize that the moments of pain were the moments of transformation. Pain also teaches gratitude. When you've been through struggle, you don't take things for granted. You appreciate success more because you know what it took to get there. You value relationships more because you've experienced loss. You cherish peace more because you've known chaos. Pain has a way of deepening your perspective, of making you more compassionate, of reminding you what truly matters. The greatest warriors, the strongest leaders, the most resilient people have all been through immense struggle. They didn't get there by avoiding pain, but by facing it head on. They didn't let it destroy them. They let it forge them. They understood that pain is not the enemy, but the tool that shapes them into who they are meant to be. Pain is not permanent. It may feel overwhelming in the moment, but it doesn't last forever. The storm always passes. The night always ends. The struggle always leads to something greater. The key is to not give up in the middle, to not let temporary discomfort make you abandon something that was meant to transform you. People often ask, why does life have to be so hard? But the better question is, who do I become through this hardship? Because on the other side of pain is strength. On the other side of struggle is wisdom. On the other side of adversity is a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more powerful than you ever imagined. The people who achieve great things in life are not the ones who had it easy. They are the ones who refused to let pain stop them. They are the ones who took their struggles and turned them into strengths. They are the ones who saw pain not as a roadblock, but as a stepping stone to something greater. Pain is the price of growth. You cannot evolve, transform, or step into your highest potential without it. It is there not to break you, but to build you. It is shaping you into the person you are meant to become. It is refining you, strengthening you, equipping you for something greater. It is part of the process, part of the journey, part of becoming who you were meant to be. Waiting for understanding before trusting is like waiting for the storm to pass before deciding to move forward. Life is unpredictable. It doesn't always unfold the way you expect it to. Sometimes things happen that shake your foundation, that make you question everything you thought you knew. You work hard, but the breakthrough doesn't come. You invest in relationships, but people still walk away. You pray for clarity, but all you get is silence. In those moments, it's easy to hesitate, to hold back, to refuse, to trust until you have all the answers. But waiting for understanding before trusting is one of the biggest traps in life because it keeps you stuck. It keeps you from moving forward, from growing, from experiencing what's possible beyond the confusion. If you look at the greatest stories of transformation, the moments where people stepped into their highest potential, you'll notice a pattern. They didn't have all the answers when they started. They didn't see the full picture. They didn't know how everything would work out. They just took the next step. Trust isn't about knowing every detail before you act. It's about moving forward even when the road isn't clear. It's about believing that even in the uncertainty, even in the confusion, there is something bigger at work. When you demand full understanding before you trust, you put yourself in a position of delay. You create conditions that keep you from stepping into the very opportunities that could change your life. You say things like, I'll believe when I see proof. I'll trust when I have guarantees. I'll take action when I know for certain that everything will work out. But life doesn't work that way. The greatest breakthroughs come when you trust before you understand, when you move before you have all the answers, when you take the leap before you see the landing. Think about a bridge in the fog. If you stand at the beginning of it, you can't see the other side. You might hesitate, wondering if it really leads anywhere, wondering if it's safe. But as soon as you start walking, the path ahead becomes clearer. Step by step, more is revealed. That's how life works. Trust is not about waiting until the entire path is visible. It's about taking that first step, knowing that as you move forward, clarity will come. So many people never step into their full potential because they refuse to move without certainty. They wait for the perfect timing, the perfect conditions, a perfect sense of understanding before they take action. But in doing that, they remain stuck. They let doubt hold them back. They let fear control their decisions. They convince themselves that if they don't have all the answers, they shouldn't move at all. But if you wait until you understand everything before you trust, you'll never move. You'll miss the opportunities meant for you. You'll stay where it's safe, but also where it's stagnant. Some of the biggest blessings in life only make sense in hindsight. You don't always recognize the value of what you're going through when you're in the middle of it. At the time, it just feels confusing, frustrating, overwhelming. But when you look back, you see how everything was connected, how every challenge, every delay, every unexpected turn was actually leading you somewhere. You realize that if you had waited for full understanding before you trusted, you would have missed out on so much. Trust isn't easy because it requires surrender. It requires letting go of the need for complete control, the need for immediate answers, the need to see the entire picture before you act. It's uncomfortable because it goes against human nature. We want guarantees. We want to know exactly how things will unfold. We want to eliminate all risks before we move forward. But the truth is, some things in life require you to act first and then the understanding follows. Some doors only open when you step forward. Some answers only come when you trust before you see. Think about the major breakthroughs in your own life. The times when something incredible happened, something that changed you, something that elevated you to a new level. If you trace it back, you'll likely find a moment when you had to trust without fully understanding. A moment when you had to take a leap, not knowing exactly where you would land. A moment when you had to make a decision without all the details in place. And yet it worked out. It led you somewhere greater than you imagined. But if you had demanded full understanding first, if you had insisted on having every answer before you moved, you might have never stepped into that blessing. You might have stayed in the same place, stuck in overthinking, waiting for a certainty that was never going to come. That's what happens to so many people. They wait for proof before they trust. They wait for a perfect plan before they move. They wait for the fear to disappear before they take action. And in doing so, they miss the very opportunities that were meant to shape them. Trust is a decision. It's not something you wait to feel. It's something you choose. You choose to move forward even when you don't have all the answers. You choose to believe that what's ahead is greater than what's behind. You choose to act despite the uncertainty. And when you do that, things start to shift. Doors open, clarity comes, pieces start to fall into place. But it doesn't happen until you make that decision to trust. There are moments in life when everything seems uncertain, when nothing makes sense, when you feel lost, unsure, stuck in confusion, and in those moments, your mind will try to convince you to wait, to pause until you understand, to hesitate until you have all the details. But those are the moments when trust is most powerful. Because trust is not about acting when everything is clear. It's about moving forward when everything feels unclear. It's about believing that even when you can't see the way, there is still a way. Look at the people who have built extraordinary lives, the people who have overcome massive challenges, who have created impact, who have achieved what seemed impossible. None of them had perfect clarity in the beginning. None of them had full understanding before they trusted. What they had was the courage to move forward even when things didn't make sense. They didn't let confusion stop them. They didn't let uncertainty paralyze them. They didn't wait for the storm to pass before they took action. Most people let uncertainty stop them. They think, I don't understand, so I can't move forward. But the truth is, not understanding is often the greatest opportunity to trust. Because if you only trust when things make sense, that's not real trust, it's just logic. Trust means believing in something bigger than what you can see, having faith in something beyond what you can understand. It means stepping into the unknown with confidence, knowing that even if you don't have all the answers, you are still being guided. Understanding will come, but it usually comes after you trust, not before. You will look back one day and see why things happened the way they did. You will see how every detour was leading you somewhere important. You will see how every delay was actually setting you up for something better. But in the moment, you won't always see it. In the moment, it will feel unclear, confusing, even frustrating, and that's where trust comes in. Because waiting for understanding before trusting is like waiting for the storm to pass before deciding to move forward. But the ones who succeed, the ones who create impact, the ones who live fully, they move forward in the storm. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They don't wait for all the answers. They choose to trust first, knowing that the understanding will come later.